Let's go Broncos! Sean Payton is really looking forward to starting the preseason. Not just him, but us too. Last Sunday, you must have seen the Eagles win the Super Bowl over the Chiefs. It must have been really exciting for them. I believe that if the Broncos can correct last year's mistakes and play even harder, we can make it to the Super Bowl this year. If you believe this too, hit that like button hard. And if possible, write something like this: Go Broncos! I want to see you in the 2025 Super Bowl. If the Denver Broncos want to be a true Super Bowl contender in 2025, there's one thing they absolutely must do: follow the model of the Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs. It's not about flashy signings or just getting the next big-name quarterback. It's about controlling the trenches, building for the long term, and making calculated moves in free agency and the trade market. That's exactly what Howie Roseman did in Philadelphia, and it's why the Eagles have managed to remain competitive no matter who is coaching or playing at quarterback. Let's take a step back and look at what's happening around the league. The Kansas City Chiefs, our biggest obstacle in the AFC West, just lost the Super Bowl to the Philadelphia Eagles, 40-22. And don't let that score fool you. This game wasn't even close. The Eagles dominated from start to finish, and the reason why? The trenches. They won at the line of scrimmage on both offense and defense, keeping Jalen Hurts upright while making life miserable for Patrick Mahomes. That's the key. If the Broncos want to finally break through and not just compete with the Chiefs, but actually beat them consistently, they have to take this same approach. So what exactly does that mean for Denver? It means three things: fill immediate needs through free agency and trades, draft for future needs before they become urgent, and always prioritize the trenches. Let's break this down. First, free agency and trades. The Eagles have been aggressive in using these tools to bring in proven talent. When they were building around Carson Wentz in 2017, they went all in with key free agent signings. They did the same thing when Jalen Hurts was on his rookie contract, making a blockbuster trade for A.J. Brown and consistently adding veteran depth where needed. That's how you build a roster that competes year after year. The Broncos need to follow this model. They don't have to go on a reckless spending spree, but they do need to identify key positions where experience and leadership can make an immediate impact. Whether it's signing a veteran offensive lineman, adding a dominant defensive tackle, or even making a trade for a high-level playmaker, these moves will allow them to focus on the draft without being forced to reach for need. Second, drafting ahead of time. This is where teams like the Eagles separate themselves from the pack. They don't just draft for the current season, they draft for the next 2 or 3 years. Look at what they've done over the past few drafts. In 2021, they took Landon Dickerson as a long-term replacement for Jason Kelce, even though Kelce still had a few years left. In 2022, they drafted Jordan Davis knowing that Fletcher Cox wouldn't be around forever. They constantly reload so that when a veteran does leave, they already have someone in place to step in without missing a beat. The Broncos need to adopt this same philosophy. Right now, guys like Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers might be holding down the offensive line, but will they still be here in 2 or 3 years? Probably not. The same goes for players like John Franklin Myers and DJ Jones on the defensive line. Denver needs to start preparing for these eventual departures now, rather than scrambling to replace them when it's already too late. And that brings us to the most important point: prioritizing the trenches. It doesn't matter how many weapons you have at wide receiver or how good your running back is if you can't control the line of scrimmage. Just look at what happened to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Their offensive line got overwhelmed, and their defensive front couldn't stop the Eagles' ground game. This is the formula for success in the modern NFL, and the Broncos need to take it seriously. That means drafting high-quality linemen early and often, keeping depth strong, and ensuring that no matter what happens, they are never weak in the trenches. Some fans might push back and say, but we need to add playmakers too. And that's true. You can't ignore skill positions entirely. But the best teams in the league don't rely on the draft to find those guys. They go out and get them in free agency and trades. That's how the Eagles landed A.J. Brown. That's how they signed Saquon Barkley. That's how contenders operate. If the Broncos want to add a game-changing tight end or wide receiver, they should do it through those avenues, not by using premium draft picks on them. That allows the draft to be focused on building long-term stability in the trenches, ensuring that the team remains competitive for years to come. So what does this all mean for the Broncos' upcoming offseason? It means they need to be aggressive yet smart in free agency. If there's an opportunity to add a veteran offensive lineman or defensive lineman, take it. If a high-impact trade presents itself, explore it. But when it comes time to draft, the focus should be on the future, not just the present. Take linemen before they become a glaring need. Build depth where it matters most. Follow the blueprint that has worked for the Eagles and Chiefs, and this team can finally take the next step toward legitimate contention. Broncos country, now it's your turn to weigh in. What do you think is the best path forward for this team? Should they prioritize the trenches in the draft and use free agency to bring in the skilled players, or do you think they should take the opposite approach? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. And don't forget, if you're enjoying this breakdown, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more exclusive Broncos content. Until next time, this has been your inside look at the Denver Broncos offseason strategy. Let's ride! The Broncos don't need to go after every big name on the market, but they do need to be selective and strategic. One area that absolutely must be addressed is the offensive line. We saw flashes of solid play from the unit last season, but inconsistency was a major problem. If the Broncos want to give their quarterback, whoever that ends up being, the best chance to succeed, they need to upgrade the O-line. A smart move would be targeting a reliable veteran who can step in immediately, whether it's at right tackle, where Mike McGlinchey has been serviceable but not elite, or along the interior, where Ben Powers may not be a long-term solution. The Broncos should look for a strong, experienced lineman who can provide stability while they continue to develop younger talent through the draft. The defensive line is another area that needs attention. While Zach Allen has shown promise, there are still concerns about the overall depth and ability of the unit to consistently pressure opposing quarterbacks. The Broncos struggled to generate a pass rush in key moments last season, and that has to change if they want to compete with teams like the Chiefs. The best teams in the league have a deep rotation of pass rushers, and right now, Denver simply doesn't have that. One option would be pursuing a veteran defensive tackle or edge rusher in free agency, someone who can step in and make an immediate impact while also serving as a mentor to younger players. Another possibility would be exploring a trade for an established pass rusher who might be available due to cap constraints on another team. Either way, the Broncos need to make sure they're adding proven talent to the defensive front. Addressing these needs in free agency will allow the Broncos to enter the draft without feeling forced to reach for certain positions. That brings us to the next key step: drafting for long-term success rather than immediate desperation. This is something the Eagles have mastered over the years, and it's a strategy the Broncos should absolutely adopt. Instead of waiting until a position becomes a glaring hole, they need to start planning ahead. We've already mentioned how Philadelphia drafted Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens as long-term replacements for Jason Kelce even before he retired. That's the kind of forward-thinking approach Denver needs to take. If the Broncos are serious about long-term success, they should strongly consider using one of their top picks on an offensive lineman. Even if McGlinchey and Powers are still around for another season or two, it's critical to have young talent developing behind them. Drafting a top-tier offensive tackle or guard now ensures that when the inevitable departures or injuries happen, the Broncos won't be scrambling to fill those spots. Broncos country, this is where you come in. How do you think the team should approach this offseason? Should they prioritize building up the offensive and defensive lines in the draft while using free agency to bring in playmakers? Or do you think they should take a different approach? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more exclusive Broncos content. Until next time, let's ride!